6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The Business News headlines is brought to you by CBX Wealth Management, making more possible.
Forex stability, export losses, and Europe's economic slump. Good evening, and welcome to CBX Business News for Friday, August 22, 2025. I'm Rondine Williams. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the newscast locally, BOJ governor says the B-Fixed facility has successfully helped stabilize the Jamaican dollar. On the regional front, the CARICOM private sector organization warns Trinidad and Tobago faces nearly US $300 million in export losses from a US tariff hike. And over on the global stage, Germany's economy contracts 0.3% in the second quarter of 2025, hit by weak investment and trade. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after our first break.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the QMAX possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why QMAX Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Welcome back. We begin with the latest monetary and financial news. The Bank of Jamaica BOJ says its intervention in the foreign exchange market is yielding positive results, noting that its participation in the forex market has been successful. Speaking at Thursday's quarterly monetary policy press briefing, BOJ Governor Richard Bowles reported that the pace of depreciation of the Jamaican dollar has fallen and the market's net open position has also declined.
I think you have to look at how has that exchange rate moved over the period of time. And you have to measure that against inflation differential. So when you look at our inflation rate and the United States inflation rate, you'll see that the differential is quite similar to how the exchange rate has moved. By and large, I would say, certainly in the last 5 years, the exchange rate has moved by 1.5%, 2% a year, which is the differential between United States inflation rate and our inflation rate. So I would judge it on that basis as performing very well because it is keeping us competitive, but it is not, creating havoc. It is not sending the exchange rate through the roof. It is not holding it down to be uncompetitive to exporters. So by that measure, it seems to me that it has been successful.
Governor Biles has confirmed that the central bank injected more than US $1 billion into the forex market for the year ended July 2025.
The bank's participation in the market has remained broadly unchanged when compared with the last time I spoke to you. Cumulatively, BOJ has sold US $1.2 billion via its B-Fixed facility over the 12 months to the end of July 2025, compared to $956 million US over the 12 months to the end of July 2024. However, the bank net purchased approximately US $931 million over the current period.
He also revealed that the country's balance of payments remain in surplus. That was BOJ Governor Richard Biles. Meanwhile, Deputy Governor Natalie Haynes reported a growing interest in JAMDEX, the central bank's digital currency, which is issued in digital form and promotes a secure cashless payment option.
Yes, we have seen since the start of this year more interest in JAMDEX by the individual users who do what we call P2P, peer-to-peer transactions. The data for the quarter ending June shows, like, in terms of value of transactions, about a 30% increase in the value of transactions. Of course, that is partially due to BOJ now actively pursuing communication and the events in terms of persons using JAMDEX. So we have moved.
That was Deputy Governor Natalie Haynes. And BOJ Governor Richard Biles is urging more commercial banks to adopt the JAMDEX digital currency platform.
Yes, although JAMDEX may not make them money, JAMDEX offers the opportunity to save them money. It is a very costly exercise to handle cash. Banks will tell you that a big part of their costs have to do with security, moving, storing of cash. And it's the same thing for businesses too. So both the banks and businesses have an interest in digital payments. So even if there is no fee to be earned off of JAMDEX, which is not entirely true because we have accepted that there will be a small fee, there is a very big case of cost savings, which they will eventually reap over time.
That was BOJ Governor Richard Biles. In other news, Tax Administration Jamaica TAJ is reporting continued success with the rollout of its new electronic motor vehicle registration certificate, with more than 65,000 certificates issued island-wide as at August 19. The EMVRC, which came into effect on July 21, replaces the paper format and eliminates the need for decals and stickers, and already 10% of renewals are being done online, taking as little as 5 minutes. TAJ says 5% of motorists have opted for the new 2-year validity period, while a survey showed 74% of users reported a seamless process. Meanwhile, Commissioner General Ainsley Powell says the numbers prove Jamaicans are open to innovation in revenue services. And we go now to the news from the Bank of Jamaica and how the currency markets traded today. In Friday's trading session, the US dollar is selling for $160.84, the Canadian for $116.89, the pound for $216.83, while the going rate for the euro is $188.94. And now for news from the JSE and how the local equity markets traded today. In Friday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 107 stocks, of which 41 advanced, 42 declined, and 24 traded firm. Today's winners are Spurtree Spices Jamaica, 138 Student Living Jamaica Variable Preference, Sagicor Real Estate X Fund, and One Great Studio Company. While leading the losers are Productive Business Solutions USD Ordinary Shares, Paramount Trading Jamaica, Fosridge Company, and Sterling Investment USD. Now the main index advanced by 3,525.73 points or 1.13% to close at 338.47 points. The junior market index declined by 40.74 points or 1.18% to close at 3,402.30 points.
And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standard.
And in continuation with our election education campaign, in today's Market Education Feature, we're looking at universal adult suffrage. Universal adult suffrage refers to the right of all citizens to vote, regardless of their social status, race, religion, gender, or wealth. It was created to address social inequality in public elections, ensuring that every adult, subject to reasonable requirements such as age, citizenship, and residency, has a voice in choosing their leaders. In Jamaica, universal adult suffrage was granted in 1944. Prior to that year, the right to vote was limited mainly to men who owned property or had significant possessions. Women were given the right to vote in 1919, but with restrictions that excluded many. It was not until 1944 that full adult suffrage became a reality, reshaping Jamaica's democracy and giving every adult citizen equal say at the polls.
The Market Education Feature was brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local segment. Please do stay with us. The regional news segment is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Diamond Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments.
Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited has been a part of Jamaica's manufacturing landscape for over 20 years. By crafting unique flavors and fragrances, we have become a part of your favorite household and food items such as beverages, ice cream, household cleaners, and much more. Known throughout the Caribbean for the highest quality, we continue to innovate with strong leadership, a dedicated team with integrity. We go the extra mile for our customers. Create the next taste sensation. Contact us at 876-9235-111 or visit our website, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn pages.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. The CARICOM private sector organization is warning that Trinidad and Tobago is set to take the hardest hit in the region from new U.S. tariffs. Washington had raised reciprocal tariff duties on TNT exports from 10% to 15%, a move that the CPSO says could cost the country almost $300 million a year. The tariffs, which took effect on August 7, come just months after the United States imposed a 10% baseline in April under its America First trade policy. According to CPSO modeling, the jump to 15% now puts Trinidad and Tobago at risk of losing US $291.9 million in export revenue every year. That's up from nearly US $195 million under the earlier 10% tariff rate. The heaviest blow will be felt in two industrial sectors: base metals, including steel, products, and chemicals. Together, they account for more than US $270 million in potential losses. Meanwhile, agriculture and food products face smaller losses, just over US $9 million. CPSO CEO Dr. Patrick Antoine says the tariff hike signals the erosion of CARICOM's preferential access to the US markets, a relationship built under the Caribbean Basin Initiative for decades. The call is now for CARICOM to close the ranks and press Washington for relief. St. Lucia is taking steps to make trading across its borders faster, fairer, and less costly. The Senate has approved amendments to the Custom Controls and Management Act that introduce advanced ruling, binding decisions from customs officials on the tariff classification and origin of goods before they are shipped. Leader of Government Business Senator Gideon Ferdinand says the measure will bring predictability and legal certainty for business.
The Customs Control Management Bill, this bill, and Customs Advanced Ruling Regulations will cover two customs areas tariffs. One is classification, and the other the origin of goods. Madam President, there are some benefits that can be used to justify this amendment, and one of them is that one of these benefits is the the predictability and legal certainty. Traders in that regard can anticipate duty liabilities and regulatory requirements before importation or exportation.
That was St. Lucia's Leader of Government Business, Senator Gideon Ferdinand. And turning now to the election scene over in Guyana. Member of Ghana's Discipline Services went to the polls earlier this morning, marking the start of voting in the 2025 national elections and underscoring the country's security readiness ahead of the wider electorate on September 1. At police headquarters, polling stations opened promptly at 6 a.m., with Commissioner of Police Clifton Hickens the first to cast his ballot. He described the process as smooth and on time, noting that the Ghana Election Commission, GCOM, has delivered efficiently on logistics. Meanwhile, Chief of Defense Staff Brigadier Omar Khan led the Ghana Defense Force, GDF, in voting. With 24 designated polling sites nationwide, Khan reported no disruptions and praised the organization of the exercise. Analysts note that the smooth security operations during elections are critical to investors' confidence, especially as Ghana positions itself as one of the world's fastest growing oil economies. And it's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 24 securities, of which 4 advanced, 8 declined, and 12 traded firm. Today's winners are One Caribbean Media, National Enterprises, Agostini Limited, and Unilever Caribbean. While leading the losers are Angostura Holdings, CIBC Caribbean Bank, MedCorp, and Guardian Holdings. Now, trading activity resulted in the following movements. The All TNT Index declined by 10.32 points to close at 1,457.74. The Composite Index declined by 11.17 points to close at 1,006.48. The Cross-Listed Index also declined, but by 1.69 points to close at 73.32. And the SME Index declined by 0.66 points to close at 96.40. And we take a short break, but please stay with us. The international news segment with the Nielsen Roast is up next.
Let's all get fit. This summer set drip. Hip dips and split. Power in the mind, let's get healthy with it. Sometimes your body's so hard, but your body wants it. And then your head is so home, and it's so like this. So we gotta go 1, 2, 3. One more now. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. One more now. 1, 2, 3. One more now. 1, 2, 3, go.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. In the international news today, foreign direct investments FDI flows into China fell 13.4% year-on-year to 467.34 billion Chinese yuan in the first 7 months of 2025 as global economic uncertainty dampened overall investor sentiment. Despite the headline decline, high-tech industries remained resilient, attracting 137.36 billion in FDI. Notably, e-commerce services soared 146.8%, while aerospace and equipment manufacturing rose 42.2%. Chemical pharmaceuticals gained 37.4%, and medical equipment increased 25.5%. The services sector continued to dominate overall inflows with 336.25 billion, followed by 121.04 billion won into manufacturing. From a regional perspective, Asiatic investments edged up 1.1%, while Switzerland was up 63.9%, Japan 53.7%, and the UK 19.5%, posting significant increases. While total FDI weakened, the sustained momentum in high-tech sectors signals enduring foreign confidence in China's advanced industries and innovation potential. Germany's economy shrank by 0.3% quarter-on-quarter in Q2, a sharper decline than the preliminary estimate of 0.1%, and reversing the 0.3% growth recorded in the previous quarter. This marks the steepest contraction since Q2 2024, driven by a broad-based decline in investment and trade activity. Fixed capital formation fell 1.4% as businesses pulled back on spending for construction, machinery, and vehicles. External demand also weakened, with exports slipping 0.1%, impacted by rising U.S. tariffs, while imports rose 1.6%, extending their Q1 pace and further weighing on net trade. Private consumption growth slowed sharply to 0.1%, while government spending rose 0.8%, offering some support. Inventory build-up contributed positively to GDP, but sectoral data showed contractions in manufacturing, construction, retail, transport, hospitality, and financial services. On an annual basis, the economy expanded 0.2%, slightly below the 0.3% recorded in Q1, but still marking a second straight quarter of year-over-year growth. The data also points to mounting headwinds for Europe's largest economy amid tighter global conditions and domestic investment weakness. Cracker Barrel saw its market value plunge nearly $100 million on Thursday after unveiling a new logo that sparked a backlash among investors and consumers. The company's stock fell 7.2% to $54.80, a drop of $4.22, following the rebranding announcement. The updated logo removes the iconic image of a man in overalls leaning against a barrel, a long-standing symbol of the brand's southern identity, in favor of a minimalist design featuring only the company's name. The move triggered a sharp sell-off, with shares briefly dipping to $50.27, erasing close to $200 million in value at the session low. The redesign, intended to modernize the brand, has raised concerns about alienating its traditional customer base. Analysts noted the sharp reaction underscores the risks associated with altering legacy branding in established companies. The yield on the U.S. 10-year Treasury note climbed back to 4.33% on Friday as investors await Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's speech at the annual Jackson Hole Symposium. Markets are watching closely for signals on potential interest rate cuts, with a 65% probability currently priced in for a September move, and expectations for a total of 50 basis points of easing in 2025. Recent hawkish remarks from Fed officials and mixed economic data have tempered rate cut hopes, creating uncertainty around the timing and scale of any policy changes. Analysts anticipate Powell will strike a cautious tone, acknowledging signs of economic softening, but stopping short of committing to near-term cuts. Instead, he is likely to stress the importance of upcoming employment and inflation data, reinforcing the Fed's data-dependent and flexible approach. And those were your international business stories.
Introducing the Corporate Services Unit, your go-to experts for corporate secretarial solutions. We offer statutory compliance, efficient minute taking, registered office address services, management of board and members meetings, setup and maintenance of corporate registers. Stay ahead with our proactive approach to new regulations. We operate under the Trust and Corporate Service Provider, licensed to the JCSD Trustee Services Limited. We're here to simplify your corporate journey, no matter the size of your company. Contact the Corporate Service Unit today and let's streamline your compliance journey together, because your success is our business.
And now to recap our top stories in the local news. BOJ governor says the B-Fixit facility has successfully helped stabilize the Jamaican dollar. Regionally, CPSO warns TNT faces nearly US $300 million export losses from US tariff hike. And internationally, Germany's economy contracts 0.3% in the second quarter of 2025. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of Nielsen Rose and the entire production team, I'm Rondine Williams, thanking you for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.
I'm Alexia Beckford. You're watching CBX, your